everybody? It's JT Sports back to you guys with another video. In this video, I'm here with my NFL 2019 Hall of Fame preview between the Denver Broncos and the Atlanta Falcons. Before I begin, make sure to like the video and subscribe to the channel. I upload NFL videos and NFL content daily. And the NFL Hall of Fame game, for those of you guys who don't know, the NFL Hall of Fame game is set to take place on August 1st, this Thursday, or whenever you're watching this video, and it will be on NBC, and it will start at 8 p.m. Eastern Time. So the NFL Hall of Fame game, I think, is a big advantage for teams when it comes to the preseason. If you're able to use it right and you come out of preseason fully healthy, the thing with the Hall of Fame game is it's an extra game on top of the four other preseason games that you get. So it's a extra preseason game, and I think it's really helpful when it comes to evaluating talent and things like that, because that gives the players that are trying to make the roster, who have a very low chance of making a roster, an extra game to show and prove themselves that they're able to have what it takes to make a 53-man roster. And it also gives the general manager and the coaches an extra game to evaluate the players that they have on the roster. So the Hall of Fame game is really, really useful in my opinion. And this Hall of Fame game, it's very, very interesting. We're going to be talking about some things to watch and some players to watch. When we look at the things to watch, we're going to be looking at the quarterback battle between Drew Lock and Kevin Hogan for the Denver Broncos. Now, when Drew Lock got drafted by the Denver Broncos in this year's NFL draft in the second round, a lot of people thought that he was going to end up being a backup quarterback, and if Joe Flacco stinks it up, then they can end up putting in Drew Lock. But that hasn't been the case. Kevin Hogan is a guy who has been around the block. He started a few games for Cleveland. He has improved every season, and he's a guy who has actually made some competition of this quarterback battle for that backup spot behind Joe Flacco. So these two have been duking it out all training camp to see who's going to be that backup quarterback behind Joe Flacco. And Kevin Hogan is a guy who has improved every season since he's been in the NFL, and he's a guy who so far is ahead when it comes to that backup quarterback battle. And it's going to be really interesting seeing these two duke it out in this game, because Joe Flacco will not be playing in this game. So Kevin Hogan, it's already been reported that he's going to end up being the starter for this game. So Drew Lock is going to be coming off the bench behind them, and it's going to be really interesting seeing how this happens. It's going to be interesting seeing how long Kevin Hogan stays in the game and how long is Drew Lock going to stay in the game. And I'm think that these two quarterbacks are going to get a considerable amount of reps. Kevin Hogan has already took reps with the first team offense, and he's took reps with the first team off the line most of training camp when he was in for the first team reps. And Drew Lock is a guy who has a lot of work he has to do, according to the Denver Broncos coaching staff. He is developing, but he still has a lot of work that he has to do. So the quarterback battle for that backup quarterback spot behind the Denver Broncos is something that everybody is going to have their eyes on, and especially Drew Lock, since everybody wants to know how good is Drew Lock and where does he stand from a developmental stance, since a lot of people haven't really seen him play during college since he played for Missouri. So then we got to look at the offensive line as well. Garrett Bowles, Dalton Reisner, and Connor McGovern are all guys who the Denver Broncos are going to be given a little bit of playing time to in this game. Really interesting because to see how long these guys stay in the game. I think these guys are probably going to stay in for a series or two. And it's going to be really interesting watching Dalton Reisner and Connor McGovern, since those two are rookies, seeing how they fare starting for the Denver Broncos in this Hall of Fame game. Even though the defense isn't going 100%, it's going to be interesting seeing how solid they're going to be in preseason. And then the last thing we're going to be watching is on the Atlanta Falcons side of things, the halfbacks. You got Edo Smith, Quadre Allison, you got Kenyon Barner, you got Brian Hill, then you got Tony Brooks James there. So Kenyon Barner and Brian Hill and Tony Brooks James, gonna be interesting seeing which one of these guys ends up making a roster, especially Quadre Allison as well. So all of these guys, other than Edo Smith, their roster spot is in jeopardy. So it's going to be really interesting seeing which halfback ends up having the more impressive game in this Hall of Fame game. And this Hall of Fame game is going to have a big impact on seeing who ends up making a roster. I think the Atlanta Falcons might end up taking 3 or 4 halfbacks if I had to make an estimate for. So that means it will be a couple of odd man guys that will be out and won't end up making the roster. So this game I think is going to be really important and seeing what they have and some of these halfbacks and who's going to end up making the roster. Now we're going to be talking about the players to watch for the Denver Broncos. Like I said earlier, the quarterback battle for that backup spot behind Joe Flacco. He will not be playing in this game. Kevin Hogan is going to be the starter. Drew Lock will be coming in behind him. Drew Lock, a lot of people want to see where he's at. This is going to be his first NFL action. It's the preseason, so everybody wants to see where is he going to be at. Kevin Hogan is a guy who has surprised a lot of people. Nobody really expected him to be in this position. A lot of people really kind of looked him off a little bit. So those are the two quarterbacks that you should watch for. Then halfback Royce Freeman. I'm interested to see if he even plays in this game, and if he does play in this game, how many reps is he going to be? Because Royce Freeman was a guy who was very solid for the first half of the season for the Denver Broncos. Because for those of you guys who aren't the OG subscriber of the channel, I said that Philip Lindsay and Royce Freeman was going to be a position battle to watch around this time last season. That people shouldn't look off neither halfback. And Royce Freeman and Philip Lindsay were pretty much splitting carries for the first couple of weeks during the season. And then I think it was like week 7 or something like that that Royce Freeman suffered an injury, and then Philip Lindsay just started taking advantage of it, and then he just ended up pulling away with the starting halfback spot with getting the bulk of the carry. So Royce Freeman, I'm going to be interested in seeing where he's going to be at in year 2. Didn't really have that bad of a rookie season. I think he had a pretty solid rookie season, and I don't think Philip Lindsay is going to see much action in this game. If Philip Lindsay does play in this game, I'd be really surprised. And if he does, I think we'll probably only see him in for a series or two. And then Royce Freeman will probably get the bulk of the carries there. So I want to see where Royce Freeman is at in his development going into year 2 of his NFL career. Then wide receiver that I want a lot of people to keep their tabs on, keep their eyes on is wide receiver Kelvin McKnight. Now this guy was undrafted. He played for Stanford University during his college football career. Had a lot of big games. He had a very big game against Florida State. He absolutely annihilated Florida State. Florida State didn't have an answer for him, so he's a guy that I'm really interested in seeing. Now he's 5'8", he's undersized, so it's going to be interesting seeing him at that slot receiver position. But he's a guy who I'm going to be keeping my tabs on. Then on the defensive side of the ball, you got defensive tackle Draymond Jones. I'm going to be interested in seeing him. He's probably going to get a lot of action during the Hall of Fame game. And linebacker Justin Hollins, the rookie as well out of Oregon, he should see a significant amount of playing time in this game as well. Then the players to watch for the Atlanta Falcons. You got halfback Kenyon Barner, Quadre Allison, Brian Hill, Tony James Brooks. So they have a loaded group of halfbacks that they're going to have to try to trim down when they go ahead and do their 53-man roster cuts in a couple of weeks. So this game is an extra game, so they can evaluate all the halfbacks that they have in the roster. We already know Devontae Freeman, Edo Smith, their roster spots are already secure, but the guys who are going to be behind them, not so much. So it's going to be interesting seeing which one of these halfbacks ends up showing up in this game and ends up having a pretty good game. And whichever halfback shows up in this game is going to increase their chances of making a 53-man roster. So this game is very, very, very important in determining which of these halfbacks on the Atlanta Falcons roster ends up making that 53. Also, we need to keep tabs on right guard and right tackle Chris Lindstrom and Caleb McGarry. Now, these two guys are rookies. Chris Lindstrom, in my opinion, was the best offensive lineman in this year's draft class. Caleb McGarry was pretty solid as well. I think these guys are going to get a pretty good amount of reps in this Hall of Fame game just so they can kind of get warmed up to the NFL before the official season starts. So I think they're probably going to be in for a couple of series or two. And then the last player to watch for the Atlanta Falcons is cornerback Kendall Sheffield. Now, Kendall Sheffield was a guy who had a pretty solid combine. He was pretty up and down for Ohio State, but I think he has a lot of upside. And on the depth chart, he's listed as a backup cornerback, so it's going to be interesting seeing him in this game, seeing how he fares against the other wide receivers on the Denver Broncos offensive side of the ball, and how good is he going to be? Because I'm a guy who likes to see what these rookie cornerbacks do in the preseason, because most of these rookie cornerbacks, if they struggle in the preseason, then that most likely means they're going to end up struggling in the regular season. Because if you struggle against backups and third stringers, then that doesn't vote well for you when it comes time to face some of the best guys in the game when the regular season starts going 100%. So it's going to be interesting seeing how Kendall Sheffield does in this game. And this is it for my NFL Hall of Fame game preview between the Denver Broncos and the Atlanta Falcons. You can catch the Hall of Fame game on NBC August 1st, this coming Thursday at 8 p.m. Eastern Time. And also make sure to like the video and subscribe to the channel for more NFL videos and content. Let me know what you guys think about it down in the comment section down below. Also comment some players and some things that you guys are also going to be looking for during this game. And thanks for watching.